Too Easy to Try has a video. What's the latest one he's done that I haven't seen yet? I've seen most of them, haven't I? So he's got the whole Kokomo I don't give a shit about. There's one about Andrew Schulz having a fake laugh. I don't care about that either, to be fair. Okay, cool. Skip the 2 Days to Try. Let's do Podcast Cringe. What has he got on here that I want to check out? Oh, Podcast Cringe has got a video about Schulz versus Maniscalco. Let's check that actually, because I'm a big fan. I'm a big Sebastian Maniscalco fan, as most of you know. He's one of my favorite stand-ups. So let's see what Podcast Cringe says about Sebastian and Andrew Schulz.
And Scorsese's coming out of nowhere. Like, I don't even know where this guy is at on set. Yeah. And it's nerve-wracking. It's you know, I had a lot of anxiety doing it.
I wonder if it's only in us where we can feel like the top of the world in our industry and that it means nothing.
Hey, Cooper Medium, comparing me to another white man is kind of racist. So I need you to check yourself, check your privilege, all right? And come back into this chat with a black square before you're allowed back in, okay? Please check your privilege at the front door. Thank you.
Nothing the second we're in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they kind of treat you as if it means nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Like, did the grips and stuff, the people who work on the movie, they know you and you're like the biggest star, right?
See, I never even think anybody knows me. I swear to God.
It's just, but I get what he's saying. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, every time I put tickets on sale, I ask myself, is anybody coming? So,
Pause.
You see, like Shane Gillis, Maniscalco knows that his #1 job is to entertain his audience. Turning up just isn't good enough. You've got to bring the laughs. And that's where that stress and anxiety seems to come from. These other Muppets don't care about that. They just want to get paid every time they turn the mic on and think that it's our privilege.
Schulz thinks he's fucking Fred Astaire, innit? These motherfuckers, he thinks he's fucking Fred Astaire. These motherfuckers, innit? He thinks he's a fucking star. Oh, you gotta love Schulz. You gotta fucking love him. If he was fat, he would obviously look like Mr. Potato, but he's not, you know. He doesn't have the puffy cheeks.
Privilege to listen to them speak about anything. And you could see right there something that I've come to find is a common theme with great entertainers. It's that imposter syndrome that creeps in and never leaves them. I find that so interesting because they come off as so confident and relaxed, especially Maniscalco with that swagger and charisma that he brings to his stand-up and even in these interviews. But I think that's what makes these kind of guys so relatable and down to earth. He knows who he is and where he stands, and he's not trying to pretend he's something else.
Exactly.
I'll give you an example. I did this voiceover in Super Mario Brothers. I was Spike. I have 2 kids, 6 and 4. So we're at Universal Studios. There is a Super Mario store. So I said, kids, come on in. Let's go see Daddy's character. They got every character on the wall but mine, Spike. Yeah. So that's kind of sums up my career. Yeah. I'm people. I have fans, but I'm not like widely known.
It's funny you think that. That's so funny you think that.
Like the Hollywood Matrix thinks it's like this weird like sideshow. And we walk in and we're like, wait a minute, no. This is the coolest thing and we're the best at it. And they're like, that's great. Here's your lines, here's your set, there's your trailer, you're sharing it with 3 other guys, there's 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
And you're like, I travel on a bus everywhere I go. Like, we don't give a Yeah,
it doesn't translate over to, like you're saying, TV and film. You know, but that's just expect.
That's an interesting take from Andrew Schulz. So Andrew Schulz is basically annoyed that people in Hollywood don't suck his dick as much as people in stand-up comedy. It's a wild thing to admit. But you know what? I'm gonna be having an unpopular opinion here. I actually don't mind how unapologetically fame hungry or how much of a fame whore Andrew Schulz is. Same goes for Bert Kusher. It's annoying to watch. Don't get me wrong. I'm not watching his podcast. It's, you know, his comedy isn't for me, and he is a bit of an annoying personality. But I do appreciate how unapologetically fame hungry he is. Like, he wants to be a big star. He wants to be a big deal. He loves the fact that his shows sell out and he can make those videos, skits and stuff. Like, he fucking loves it. He loves himself, right? More than anything, probably. So I don't really mind how unapologetically self-absorbed he is. At least he doesn't pretend to be humble or have humility. I don't really mind that too tough. But it is interesting to see somebody, you know, like Sebastian Maniscalco, who is far more accomplished than him, who's probably achieved more than him, who is 10 times funnier than him, be incredibly humble, incredibly chill, right? Somebody that you'd probably want to bump. If you bumped into Sebastian, you'd probably like to bump into him. You probably like to let him know, hey, I'm a big fan of your special. I love what you're doing. Keep going. You know what I mean? You'd actually be chuffed if you bumped into him. Whereas Andrew Schulz, you know, he might big time you. He might give you the cold shoulder. He might say nobody knows who you are. You know, like, it's interesting the fucking contrast.
You know, it's interesting how when comedians get big enough, they seem to all want to head over to Hollywood and do movies or TV shows. And I think it's mainly from guys who don't have big podcasts or social media followings. Maniscalco actually mentioned this on this episode of Flagrant, that he likes to do those kinds of gigs for the exposure that it brings, and then he can capitalize on that with his stand-up tours, which is where he's obviously most comfortable. So that was just some interesting background on Maniscalco and how he sees himself in the industry. I felt like I should at least give you guys a bit of info on him, even though I know a lot of you know who he is. He's obviously super famous now, but I've never spoken about him on my channel before. So then let's get into some cringy bits now, because
honestly, he's my favorite. Whenever I need to laugh, I'll rewatch all of his specials. There's loads of clips of his on fucking YouTube. Sebastian is one of my favorite fucking stand-ups. I know some of his stuff is hacky. I know some of his stuff is a little bit dated. I get it. But honestly, he's so fucking funny. Just his mannerisms, just his, you know, he's actually, you know, got that physical comedy thing down pat. The way he moves his shoulders, walks around. Like, he's brilliant. I fucking love Sebastian. I don't give a fuck. I'm an unashamed Sebastian stan.
For some reason, when Andy and the Toy Story boys sense that one of their guests has a backbone and lives a principled existence, they go all weird and quiet and they don't know what to say. It's like they fish for little gotcha moments to make themselves feel better about their own soulless existence. Mind you, Sebastian's only 10 years older than Andrew.
Do you get road rage at all when you're driving?
No. At this age, I actually relish the time in traffic.
Why?
Generally, when I'm driving and I'm gonna get in traffic, I'm alone. And those times, if I have an audio book or a podcast on, I actually welcome it. Yeah, there's no real road rage. And when I have kids, to me, it's more time in the car with them. So I like it.
Yes, you like the family. You like
I'm a family guy.
They can't understand how somebody loves their wife, loves their family. They don't get it. They want to be finger banging fucking waitresses at the local haha. They don't understand. They don't understand not recording a podcast while you're driving, being on a Skype call with your agent at CAA. They don't get it. He lives a fairly ordinary, mundane family guy life outside of stand-up, and they just can't get their head wrapped around it. I fucking love it.
It's very traditional, very family.
Okay, we're not into the family yet.
See how the conversation goes dead when one of their guests says something completely normal and well thought out? If you recall, they did the exact same thing with Shane Gillis when he was on, where they were all sitting around dumbfounded as to why Gillis wasn't a diva like Schulz is.
What is your one bougie thing? What is your one thing that it's like?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like, I wouldn't want people to know. I'm a little bit
I don't
embarrassed.
feel like they know.
Shane looking at them like, bougie. What does that even mean?
I first class flights.
Have to do first class so you can read your Steinbeck. I was really impressed with that.
Shut up.
Okay, but what's the other bougie expense? Is it like, okay, obviously the comfort of first class. Is there anything you're like, ugh, I didn't know that I was this guy, and then you experience it and you're like,
big up Jared Mellerick, Wagwan, bang your doors.
now I kind of have to be this guy.
No.
Really?
No.
Hotels, you don't care? You don't have to stay at a nice hotel?
Hotels.
Okay, so we're going to find a lot of
a
things.
little. But no, it was like, I thought I was like, I don't care where I stay. And then I got in the worst hotel possible.
And it's
And
like,
I
no.
like called my manager and I was like, all right, can we, what the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking like the worst hotel possible.
Yeah.
Like motel, like you park in front of the,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what's funny about this conversation? I watched it already, but most comedians, especially if you catch them on the, because it's really hard to catch a lot of comedians on the come up because they blow up so quickly, right? And they all kind of get on Rogan really fast. But if you follow a stand-up comedian's podcast and you're sort of listening to them when they're struggling and they may be working a job or they're just grafting and they're out there doing fucking horrible gigs and shit. Usually the thing they talk about the most wanting is just an audience. They want to, you know, cultivate an audience. They want to have shows that sell out. They want to go on tours and shit. That's all they really want. It's sort of really humble sort of goals, right? They want to be able to just, you know, pay their way doing comedy, right? They want to pay for their lives doing fucking what they fucking love to do and what they maybe feel like they're ordained to do, what they've been got, you know, they're God-given gift to do. But then somewhere along the line, these guys turn it into some other thing where it's like private jets, mad cars, like it's just like what? And also it's like it's not even that's not a bad thing. It's just how do you then become funny? Like how do you become funny when you're somebody that has that sort of lifestyle, especially if you're somebody like a Tom Segura, who you then start to denigrate your fan base. You then start to act like you're better than your fans. Because it's one thing to be super rich, but it's another thing to also despise your middle class, working class fan base. Because how can you be funny? Like, what rich person do you know that hangs out with rich people that's funny? Doesn't exist. The only way to be, that's why I kind of have respect Dave Chappelle. Because Dave Chappelle does that thing where he travels, you know, around the country, around the world, basically like a regular dude. He does loads of like regular guy side missions. He'll turn up to a fucking music festival. He'll be at some weird bar. He'll go to a fucking whatever. He'll go to the movies. Like he just like, you know, navigates around the world and interacts with regular people on a daily basis. That's probably how he basically keeps himself somewhat centered and somewhat grounded with actual real people. But these guys, people like Schulz and stuff, like Schulz arrives to the club in a fucking Escalade. Do you know what I mean? Like he's arriving in an Escalade, he's getting in through the back door, you know, minimal time with the fans, like really getting out the, you know, really making sure like, no normal people around me. How could he be funny that way? It's odd.
All right, so what do you demand right now?
Nothing.
You have a rider?
No.
Big up Sarlux.
I can't say
Green Juice Fund.
Big up Sarlux, appreciate you. Thank you for the Green Juice Fund. Appreciate the $5 super chat, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. That will go to buying some pears, or pears, as Brennan will say. Some pears, some kiwi, and some lemon. That will go towards buying that, and some ginger. Actually, I need to get some more ginger. So thank you so much, Sarlux. Thank you so much.
I can't figure you out.
In my green room, I get fruit and hummus.
Hummus is good.
And
Solid.
Bud Light and White Claws.
Solid.
But that was just my manager came up with that.
I cannot figure it out. I can't figure you out.
Why?
That is a rider, but he's saying he didn't come up
I
with
didn't
it.
do that. She just did it.
She knows. But it's a nice luxury.
Yeah.
Nah, but it's like,
What else?
you want steak dinners.
Oh, Darksea the Flow. Good point there, my friend. Good point. It's because they're not comedians, they're actors. They're actors LARPing as comedians. That might make a lot of good. That might make more sense than I've actually thought of, to be honest. That makes a lot more sense. They're actually actors LARPing as comedians. Huh.
Well, I want chicken and steak because
No,
I
just
don't
get
want to just
pizza.
eat.
You see the difference?
I don't want to eat pizza.
Yeah.
You
That's
see
it.
the
I
difference
understand.
between hummus and White Claws?
What do we start with?
Between-
We have a hummus platter that's
Hummus
there all the
platter.
time.
No, you start with that. His whole rider is just hummus and White Claw. So there's a difference.
So what are you ordering for dinner?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, that is crazy. What's going on here?
What are we talking about?
Nothing.
There's got to be one. You've got some money.
no,
There's
no.
got to be a thing. Nothing?
He's embarrassed to be remotely demanding.
I would never be demanding.
See?
Out of shame.
Ever.
Now,
The
I mean,
perception,
hopefully I get there.
the perception of bougie is
But I'm
worse
not
than the
like-
perception
I
of
like
gay.
it.
oh,
for
that's
shame.
interesting. Okay, so
This is I have one pair of pants. These shoes stink. I've been wearing them for 3 months.
What a weird panel. What a weird conversation. Imagine grilling somebody because they don't like to spend money, or grilling somebody because they're not as materialistic as you. Imagine how weird of a conversation that is. You're like surprised and shocked that somebody isn't indulging in all the fucking trappings of luxury and fine dining and shit. It's like, don't you have anything to talk about? Is this really the crux of your conversation? Like, this is insane. I forgot how wild this podcast was, man.
that's a 3-month white sneaker.
Yeah.
Oh man, when Al says, I can't figure you out, it gets me every single time. It's like they caught an alien and they're trying to understand their peculiar ways. And so the same thing continued here with Maniscalco. It's like they won't stop until their guest reaffirms their preconceived ideas of how a celebrity comic should behave, so they can justify their own diva-like tendencies.
Let's say, for example, dropping your car, because I've heard some legendary tipping, right? Like, I remember I was hanging with Rogan once. He drops the car off, it's 100. Picks it up, it's 100.
Okay, that's aggressive.
Yeah.
He's responsible. He just said he was responsible. He's responsible.
I don't know why, but when Andrew told that story about Rogan, all I pictured was Joe hopping out of his car and being the same height outside standing up as he was sitting down inside.
You know, I thought about it the other day. I thought about it randomly because that picture came up. That picture of Rogan on the Mike Tyson podcast. Don't get me wrong, it's really bad because I think the angle is really bad and it makes him look horrible. But Joe's sitting on a couch and Mike Tyson's to his left and he's Mike Tyson's co-host is to his right. And I think Mike Tyson's co-host is also a football player, I think, right? So he's a huge guy. But Joe looks tiny. And I remember some comments saying, the funny thing about this picture isn't that Joe looks tiny compared to a football player. I think they said that it's Mike Tyson's like 5'8" or something. So Mike Tyson isn't even like 6 foot or something. Mike Tyson's like 5'8", 5'7". But Joe looks tiny. So it made me think, like, when you see Joe in real life, he must get it often. Imagine how annoying it must be to be Joe Rogan. People don't see you out often enough, right? Because you're Joe Rogan, you do your own thing. So when you bump into Joe Rogan in real life, it must be a bit of a weird experience, right? Because you don't expect to see him out and about. So I bet the first reaction people always have to Joe after the initial shock of seeing him must be like, oh shit, you're a lot shorter than I thought you'd be, you know? And I bet he can see it in their eyes, or he can probably hear it when they say it. But I bet that must be the number one reaction he gets when people see him in real life. Like, fuck, you're really short. And he has to play it off like it's cool. But you know, it gets to him. It must be so weird because he is actually tiny. Like, legit tiny. Legit tiny. It's so funny. I don't know why, but it just is.
Inside the car. I don't know why, but now I just can't unsee it. Sorry if I've ruined it for you guys as well. Anyway, the efforts to reveal Sebastian's true colours continued in vain, but this next story was actually really funny. Take a look and I'll ask you a seemingly obvious question afterward.
When did you get enough money where you started to release a little of your economic anxiety? Or is it still there?
It's always going to be there. Just the way I was raised. My father.
Nothing chipped away?
Listen, do I spend money? Yeah. My wife has that in her.
What does that mean?
Just like
Spending money?
let's have a party. Which I love to have parties.
Okay.
But the way my wife does parties and the way I do parties are two different things.
Okay, how so?
What is the difference?
What's your ideal party?
We had a Christmas party last year. You know, we had a party planner. They bring in furniture. It's a whole.
Which I kind of like because then it doesn't fuck up your furniture and you don't have anxiety about people spilling over. I'm into the furniture.
Yeah, bringing in the furniture. But again, furniture is a really high.
By the way, you have to have a house big enough to have 2 sets of furniture in it in the first place. You have to live in an apartment or in a house that's big enough where you can have 2 bits of furniture in there. I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at my place, I'm like, I can just about fit a couch in here. How the fuck am I going to fit another couch in here? Great house, never met him.
Expense when you're dealing with a party. To rent furniture, it's a big dent, right?
Okay.
You got the bartender, you got the catering, there's a lot that goes into having a Christmas party, at least in my wife's eyes.
Yeah.
I said, this year, let's do something small, you know? Let's have 8, 10 people over at the house. We'll get our friend Dom to cater it. We'll get some drinks. I'll pour them. Right? We don't need a bartender.
Yeah.
But as it starts, you know, to go, it's like, all right. Next thing you know, Well, there's a truck in the driveway, and there's moving people in my house. So it's. I like to entertain. I really do.
Yeah.
And if I spend my money on anything, I don't buy cars. I don't buy jewelry. I buy experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Sebastian on that as well. I remember that's the one thing that I'm really happy that my parents kind of instilled in me. I'm not really a big birthday guy. I don't ever celebrate my birthday. But when I used to kind of celebrate it a lot, one of my things that my parents did instilled in me and my brothers was that they'd always give us money, like 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever. And they'd tell us to take our friends out for dinner. So we'd get, 2 of our best friends, 3 of our best friends, whatever. We'd go to, I don't know, if it was a McDonald's, if it was a fucking Nando's, TGI Fridays, wherever it may be. And we just basically, get everybody food, essentially, and put that money behind the bar. And I actually think that's a far better way to celebrate your birthday. Either you buy yourself a drink, right? I think that's pretty cool. You go out somewhere, you get yourself a nice steak dinner, you buy yourself a drink, or you just buy yourself a nice bottle and you pour it and you just give yourself a little, acknowledgement that you're fucking 1 year older. Or you take out one of your best friends or a couple of your best friends and you pay for the meal and have everybody just sit around, celebrating your day, basically, eating off of you kind of thing. But there's something quite nice about giving back to people in a day when you're meant to receive gifts. It's kind of, I don't know, it's strange to say it, but it's kind of nice that, because also I'm not really a gift. I don't really like receiving gifts either. It feels odd, right? Somebody giving you a present's a bit strange and shit. So I'd much rather buy some, have an experience for myself or have an experience with other people. That's kind of a cool way to enjoy your fucking birthday, I reckon.
And if I have experiences with my friends, my family, or if it's a vacation, I'd rather spend my money on that than go out and my home.
Okay, hang on. All right. Is that actually a thing? Do people really hire furniture for a party? I'm not talking about tables and chairs if you're having like an engagement party or a wedding or whatever. I'm talking like lounges and rugs, like coffee tables and all that. If that's legit, that has to be one of the cringiest rich people things I've ever heard. Imagine going to someone's house and they have all this random furniture in there to impress their guests, and then everyone already knows that they've rented it out for the party because they've been to their house like during the day for coffee. I don't know. What do I know anyway? I still use a washcloth.
That's true though, because this is the first time I've heard of it. Maybe some of you guys in the stream chat could let us know. But have you ever heard of people renting out different furniture for birthday parties and shit, or parties in general? It's fucking wild. I know party planners exist, especially people that have money. They exist to kind of, do this thing. So I never knew that there was people, that would hire different bits of furniture in their house not to fuck it up. It's like, that's some real rich people shit. That's some real swaggy, I'm fucking rich as fuck shit.
Cloth in the shower. Anyway, Schulz kept poking and prodding to the point where Maniscalco actually had to tell him straight up that basically, you got to get over the money thing, bro. Move on. This was great. Take a look.
I just had a 50th birthday party. There was like 50 people at the party.
Ooh, that you kept it tight.
I kept it
because you
tight.
could have extended.
We could have, really blown it out. But
what do you spend on something like that? What do you spend on a nice little 50th birthday party? I mean, it's not 10 G's. Like you wouldn't just spend 10 grand on a little 50th birthday party.
I'm not into pricing.
Yeah, he's not comfortable with this.
I'm not.
I mean, we can do
He's
it.
a Catholic kid, bro. He's not going to talk about money.
You should know Italians never
Immigrant, yeah.
divulge what they're spending on stuff.
Because they got over on you? They got over? Because if you got a deal, you would have told me. No. Please believe me. If you got a deal, the first thing you would have told me.
I'll just give you this.
$1 million?
No, not $1 million.
$2 million?
There's no $2 million. On a party? Are you crazy? No.
Can I guess? Can I throw a guess? You don't have to say yes or no. I think it's 75.
$75,000?
Yeah. Might be 100 actually.
Money is so dirty, right?
It's dirty. It's a
but
dirty
it's
business.
so fun. Money's fun.
Are you a guy that likes to tell people, yeah, I dropped 50 grand on a...
Thank you, Eric C. Much appreciated, friend. Much appreciated.
Exact example.
Because it's so embarrassing, I can say the number.
Yeah, but would you tell me how much you spent for your wedding?
If Eric Ten Hag gets a fucking lifetime contract, I swear to God, I'm going to throw myself out the nearest fucking window. If those fucking Glazers give that fucking cunt a new lifetime contract, I'm going to throw myself off of the nearest bridge. I'm going to shove a fucking spoon up my fucking bum. Not the fucking small way, the fucking big way. I swear to fucking God. If that absolute bald fraud, if that catfisher for manager, if that fucking walking fraudster gets a contract extension, I'm going to punch the first woman that I see when I'm walking down the street. And I don't care what she looks like. I'm going to punch her straight in the face. I'm going to kick her child. I'm going to kick her dog. I'm going to push her pram with her other baby into the nearest set of traffic. I swear on my life I will. If he gets a fucking new contract. I swear. I'm going to leave it there.
No, I wouldn't share.
Okay, so
We got a deal. We got a deal. I would tell you on the side. I would tell you on the side because we got a deal. We got a nice deal.
all right, see, I wouldn't even tell you if when the camera's off and we leave, I wouldn't even tell you what I spent on my 50th birthday party.
But you want to know what I spent on my wedding?
I don't care.
You do a little
I
bit.
really don't.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
I don't care.
You do a little
I
bit.
really don't.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
What do you guys think? For those of you who like to psychoanalyze like me, what do you think is up here? What do you think is the obsession with someone like? Because Schulz isn't poor. From what I've read online, he comes from a decent upbringing, maybe middle class. So he's had some level of flexibility, some level of a safety net when it comes to his life and shit, right? He's not grown up like, you know, on fucking noodles and shit. So why do you think he's obsessed with money and flexing and being like, what's to do with that? Because it sort of feels like a new money thing, right? When you're not used to having money, you kind of want to talk about, all you talk about is fucking money. But it's not even like he's never had money. He's had money. He's had money growing up. His parents had a successful business. He grew up, you know, somewhat comfortably. Why do you think he's obsessed with this sort of shit? Like what? Like, and he's been famous for a long time too. No, he's been well known and famous for a while. Why do you think he's so obsessed with this shit? More than middle class. He comes down to ego, says Severe Design. He's a weirdo. Max Alex says he's annoying. Stannis. Illusionary Commission says he's got made fun of a lot by comedians he came up with for being an internet comedian. That's true. I never knew. That's a very good point. Cast Iron Pan says that haircut, he makes me violent. I feel you, Cast Iron Pan. That haircut does that haircut is grounds for, like, I could catch a charge on the back of that haircut. You know, you could actually willingly catch a charge on it. You could willingly do a bid if you saw someone with that haircut. You know, just fade it exactly. We don't want. I don't know. Coiler, Sebastian had to wait tables behind Comedy Store for years. Schulz thinks it's a game. Sebastian thinks it's work. Oh, bravo, Coiler. Bravo. Schulz thinks it's a game. Sebastian thinks it's work. That might be it, you know. Sebastian actually respects his audience. Sebastian is in the service industry from being a waiter. He's in the service industry. He's there to service the fans. He's at the beck and call of the fans. Whatever they want, he gives them. Whereas Schulz and those guys, they think they're better than the fans, isn't it? That's what Tom and those guys are like. They think they're better, they're smarter than the fans. Even Bert Kusher thinks he's smarter than these fans. It's like, bro, have you seen yourself?
Oh man, that's so good. He literally told Schulze to his face that he didn't care and then proceeded to laugh in his face while patting him on the shoulder. That's a classic flagrant moment right there. I'll definitely keep that one in my back pocket for future reference. But man, Schulze would not drop the money talk. I've noticed that he does this thing where he asks his guests questions in a way that allows him to flex on them and brag about his own success and fame, but mask it all into the conversation. So they were talking about Sebastian's latest special from last year and how he took this year off so that he could get ready for his tour next year, which is what he was promoting on Flagrant in this episode. So I'm going to pick this up in a moment, and I'm also going to bring in...
He's going on tour. I want to see. If he's here in London, I'm going to go see him, mate. Let's see if he's on tour in London. London tour. Let's see. Because if he's on tour here, I'm going to go fucking see him. I don't give a fuck. Let's see. Let's see if he's got any dates announced here in fucking London. I don't think so, but let's fucking see. What do we got here? Toronto, Boston. Okay, so no international just yet. Nothing international. Just US. Fucking hell. When people say tour, that's a fucking tour, innit? Look at those dates, bro. From July all the way to December. Wow, bro. That's a fucking tour. He's going fucking everywhere. All right, so no fucking dates for London just yet, it looks like, unfortunately. But when he does come to the UK, I'm fucking there. Cool. Okay, we have to wait. We'll have to wait for him to come to the UK.
Bert Kusher, because I think there's another interesting comparison to make. But first, let's take a look at this clip.
It's a lot of pressure to come up with material.
That's the thing. Like, you have a podcast, but it's not like a source of your life's income. Like, you can't just, your podcast is broke. What I'm trying to say.
It is.
You know? Yeah.
It is.
Fortunately, you make the most money ever doing comedy, so you can afford these amazing things that you do. But for us, we can make a living on the pod, and then it puts less pressure on, okay, I got to get a new hour ready to go by this time.
Okay, so let me break this down. Sebastian's last Netflix special titled Is It Me was released around this time.
I wonder if that's the reason why their specials aren't good. Because technically what he's saying is that the thing that makes him the most money is podcasting. Really, if you think about it. Because it's also most reoccurring. Because I think with stand-up comedy, when do you make money doing stand-up? You make money doing stand-up when you're actually doing stand-up, right? Or maybe you might make some residual money from your streaming platform, but I don't think so. I assume when you sign a deal with Netflix, they probably give you a fee. Like, it's like what Dave Chappelle got, right? You get those millions and then you deliver what you deliver, but you don't get anything else on the back end. You just get the upfront fee. So you only make money doing stand-up when you do stand-up. But with podcasting, you can make money on the, while you sleep. You're making money with the ads, you're making money with the plays, with the AdSense on YouTube and shit. It's constantly coming in. So effectively, these guys are mostly podcasters and stand-up comedians second. So it makes sense that when they do their jobs, which is podcasting, which takes up more of their time, they're bringing their A game to their podcast. So most comedians, I feel like, are their funniest on pods. Even Rogan's not that funny, but Rogan's way funnier on a pod than he is on stage. So it's no surprise that the stand-up comedy suffers because they bring all their A game to pods and not the stand-up show, because that's what makes them the most money. I don't know why I just figured this out now, but I guess that's that might explain why Sebastian's so funny. Because he puts all of his effort into stand-up, because that's what makes him the most money.
Last year, almost exactly to the day actually. And so what Schulz was talking about there was how Sebastian has taken this whole year off and he's coming back for a tour next year in July titled It Ain't Right. Now, Andrew's point was because he has the Flagrant podcast, which makes around $250,000 a month, plus another 70 to 80K a month on Patreon,
Jesus.
He doesn't have to stress about his income if he was to take the same amount of time off as Sebastian did. Now, don't be mistaken, though. Sebastian is one of the highest grossing comics at the moment from touring and releasing specials, etc. So he's clearly got millions in the bank. He doesn't have to worry, right? But what I found so interesting about this whole conversation was this next bit. For me, this is probably one of the biggest distinguishing features of comedians like Maniscalco compared to guys like Schulz and Bert Kusher.
But also the cool thing is that you get to work from home, you're around your family, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you don't have that pressure to, oh, shit, I need a new hour by February. So let's go, because this tour starts here and I gotta go.
Yeah.
You could do that whenever the hell you want to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but it is difficult to come up with.
How the f are you coming up with a new hour?
Well, I got to live. That's why I took some time off. I was constantly on the road, this and that and the other thing. I had no time to even live my life to extract any material. So I said, you know what? Let me take a beat here. Let me concentrate on other things, whether it be a TV show, the podcast. Let me spend some time with my family.
Smart.
And I was talking to Chris Rock about this, and he kind of put it, he goes, there's no way you could make an entrance if you never leave the room.
There's a thing that sometimes you see comics doing with it as part of their joke. They're referencing when they did. One time I did this in Alabama and then this happened. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh, you're not living a life outside of comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the only things that are happening to you that are like worth talking about are the other things that are happening in comedy.
Yeah.
And people don't do comedy.
They don't do comedy.
They live life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, you got to extract from real life experiences.
So that right there, apart from the obvious
That's interesting, isn't it? That also explains so much about what we're seeing on stage. It does explain so much, especially if you look back to people are noticing it in the stream chat, the amount of money these guys are making on pods. So let's say, for instance, Schulz is making 200 grand per month via his podcast, right? And of course, a split between all the different people and shit, plus a Patreon. It's maybe clearing 300,000, 400,000 per month from content he does on YouTube or content creation. It's no surprise that the stand-up is shit. If you make that much money doing content creation, it's going to take somebody very dedicated to sit down and start writing jokes seriously. It's no wonder the jokes aren't hitting the way they need to be hitting, because you are spending most of your time content creating. That's also making you the most money, which is then putting less pressure on the stand-up, which means the stand-up doesn't matter as much as it would in the past. It's not like live or die sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's a nice to have. It's actually an add-on type of thing. It's a bonus at the end of it. That might explain why these... Think about Theo Von. Theo Von's a good example. Theo, I love him, but his stand-up is pretty shit also. He's not the greatest stand-up ever. He's way funny on a pod. Makes sense as well. Theo probably gets the same amount of views as Flagrant do, right? So he probably makes about the same amount of money, and it's split with less people. So he's probably making anywhere between like 200 grand to 500 grand a month via the content he makes online. It's no surprise the stand-up specials aren't that great. That probably explains a lot of it, but I don't know. What would you rather though? If you're a stand-up comedian, what would you rather? Would you rather have a career like Sebastian's or have a career like Schulz's? Because they both still get to the same numbers, right? Money-wise, but it's a different way to operate and stuff. I think I'd prefer Sebastian life. I'm not going to lie. To be able to take like a year and a half off from working to hang out with your family, raise your kids, and your fan base is still there. And you can go on a fucking tour covering most of the states in fucking America. And obviously go on a war tour also. After taking a year and a half off. That's pretty decent. Recording one podcast per week, if that. I'd take that. I'd take Sebastian, honestly. Like, it really would. Because the Schulz way of living is a little bit, you know, it's a bit mad. Especially when it comes to how egomaniacal he is, you know, without really nothing to show from it. I don't know. I prefer Sebastian way. I don't know what you guys think.
Obious Talent Gap is precisely what differentiates comedians like Maniscalco from guys like Tom and Bert. Those other guys are constantly putting out content, overexposing themselves, both figuratively and literally, and just generally trying to jam way too much into each month compared to what they can actually handle. And so when it comes time for them to do a tour or put out a special, it comes off as rushed and unedited and generally lacking originality or thought. Take a look at Bert Kusher describing his approach to his stand-up comedy career from season 1 of My Career is Burning.
I get obsessive because I start going, I got a new joke, I want to go to the store, I'll go to the store tonight. Even though I don't want to, I'll go to the store tonight, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do that. I feel guilty if I don't work. I feel like this is the first, I've been in this business for 20 years. The last 3, I've been able to make money doing what I love is just stand-up. Sure. And so I'm like, make hay with the sun shines. Push it as hard as you can. You want to put me on tour? Put me on tour January to March. Get me to Europe. Get me to Australia. Then let's start it up again in September, and let's push all the way to the end of the year. Let's do a special. I'll just write my fucking off. Like, that's where my head's at. Because, dude, remember there's so many people in this business that don't get opportunities. And when you get an opportunity, if you don't seize it, I feel like Tupac knowing I'm going to die, you know?
When was the last time you had a physical?
Yeah, that's so eye-opening. I truly think that is the wrong approach. Did you notice how Bert was only concerned with milking his fame for every dollar? He didn't mention once his actual fans and ensuring that his comedy is of a certain standard so that they actually enjoy his shows.
That's so true. And that's, I think, the really sad bit about it. And if you're a fan of these guys, like, you support them, that support helps them make more money, get more famous, basically take up comedy professionally, wherever it may be, full time. But then also on the flip side, it can have a detrimental effect because that money could then end up making them take their foot off the pedal, get a little bit more relaxed, and then you end up with, the issue that a lot of comedy fans have where, these guys are richer and more famous than ever, but the podcasts are terrible. So the thing that they should be good at, because that's all they do, they're terrible at. The stand-up is also terrible, so you're left with nothing. It's like your mum's house fans. Think of your mum's house fans. Think of OG your mum's house fans, how they must feel. Your mum's house starts off amazing in that room, right, in their house where they sit across from each other. Because I think that was the best era of your mum's house, when Tom and Christina were sitting across from each other, playing all those fucking random clips, having people submit songs, right? Like fucking, it would make me die laughing, that podcast, right? So fucking funny. And then over time, they both get really famous, they both get really successful, and the podcast suffers so badly now that it's legitimately unwatchable. It's such a shame, man. It's so gutting. It's like, fuck, man. Like, I used to love this shit, and then it goes to complete shit. And Tom Segura's stand-ups specials aren't that great, personally. I don't think so. I think he's a bit overrated as a comedian. Christina P, unwatchable, stand-up wise. No thank you. Tolerable on the podcast, but stand-up and not having it. So if you're a fan of your mum's house, you have a shit podcast now, and the stand-ups aren't really nothing to really write home about. So what are you left with? Nothing. What are you left with? Exactly, Coiler. It's like a friend died. Exactly. It's like, what are you left with? Nothing. Anyway, let's move on from that one. Big up Podcast Cringe. Appreciate you, brother. You are the best. You are the best. Make sure you subscribe to Podcast Cringe. That guy is fucking smashing it.